Hi there, I'm Samantha Wooden, and I am a school counselor, and I'll be talking to you today about the transition process that you will be going through and some of the things that you may have questions about. So I hope that this is really beneficial to you. I will talk to you about some of the CSE members and their roles that they have during this process, some of the people you may meet, or some of the people your parents may talk to you about that they have met during some of the meetings. I'll talk to you about your rights and responsibilities during this whole process and some of the rights and responsibilities that your parents may talk to you about. I will talk to you about some acronyms, some short things that you may hear or see written down and what they mean. I will talk to you about the ethical and legal issues during this whole entire process that you'll be going through. And then at the end, I'll offer you a tip sheet and some other resources that you may find beneficial to you. So I hope that you find this beneficial and you enjoy it. Thanks. So I know that this process can seem extremely overwhelming and it can seem extremely nerve-wracking, and that is all okay. And many people feel this way, and you shouldn't feel singled out or left out. Your parents may feel this way as well. So we understand, and that's what I'm here to help you with. I have an open door policy. If you need it, you can come in and see me during your free time, before or after school, to ask more questions. So what we really want to make sure is that you're receiving the best education possible, and that you are in the best and safe environment. We want to make sure that you have a positive learning experience while you are at school, and we want to make sure that everybody on the committee who is looking to help transition you is following their end of their roles and that they're following the goals that your parents and the committee have put in place. So we just want to make sure that you are feeling okay. And if you have any concerns or questions throughout this whole entire process, feel free to ask any of the committee members. You can come and talk to me, talk to the principal, have your parents contact me. We just want to make sure that you are feeling okay and that you are feeling like you are getting the best education possible. So I wanted to start out right now and just talk to you about some of the acronyms that you may hear or you may see throughout this presentation. So to begin, CSE means Committee on Special Education, and I'll go into that a little bit more depth in some of the following slides. IEP is an individualized education program. This is what we may start looking for and getting you the best education possible. FBA is a functional behavioral assessment, and this is just where a teacher or a counselor or psychologist may begin taking some notes and data collection about things that are happening in the classroom. A BIP is a behavioral intervention plan, and it just discusses some strategies that the counselor or a psychologist or a teacher has tried to help you out in the classroom. IDEA is Individuals with Disability Act. LRE, Least Restrictive Environment, and that is what we want to make sure that you are in an environment that is least restrictive, that we're going to take slow steps first, baby steps. We're not going to put you into something over the top to begin with. We'll start at the lower and then work our way up if need be. FAPE, Free Appropriate Public Education. FERPA, Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. This is what your parents will use if they need to. And a PLEP is a present level of educational performance. So when your teacher or me as a counselor or the psychologist writes an IEP, writes that individualized education program plan for you. We will write where you are presently, whether that's your social emotional state, your management, how you're doing in the classroom. Okay, now I want to move on to talking to you about some of the people that you will come in contact with, and some of the people that will be working on helping you transition through this process. So the principal will generally likely to be in the meeting there, and they just kind of give some input and see what's going on. Then we obviously have your classroom teacher. They give input about some things that have been happening in the classroom. If they've been taking any assessments or anything like that, they kind of get a first-hand basis of what's been going on in the classroom and some ideas that they may have or some strategies that they've attempted to use to help you out in the classroom. Then we may have possibly an aide if that's the route that your parents and the committee would like to go on. They may present the aide that may work with you in the classroom if need be. I'm not saying that that's exactly what will happen. It just depends on your level and what your parents and you and the committee think would benefit you the most. Then we have the psychologist. The psychologist, they generally will take the assessments. Your parents will have to sign off on having you get tested to see what would benefit you the most. So you'll likely be in contact with them. You may go down to their office or they may come and observe you in the classroom. No need for you to feel upset or scared or anything like that. They're just trying to see what's going on and what we can do to help you out and make sure you're getting the best education possible. Then you have me as a school counselor that I may also take some observations and I can provide the counseling with you depending on where we go during this transition process. Sometimes the students are required to have group counseling where you come into my office and we can do some groups. We may also do individual counseling as well, one time a week. It just depends on your plan and what everybody on the committee decides to do. And then we have a CSC chairperson, this person who is kind of in charge of the whole entire thing, getting everybody coming together for this meeting. They just follow up with everybody else and they make sure that people are following through the process and that they're following through with their goals and plans that they put in place for you. Then we obviously have your parents. Your parents are invited and should attend these meetings. They can give things of what's going on at home possibly that we may be struggling with, that they may be struggling with, some ideas that they have, some questions, concerns, comments. We welcome them to ask those questions, to comment on those things, and express their opinions so that you are receiving the best education possible. And then we may have a social worker there. This can be presented to you and your family. This kind of bridges the gap between things that are going on at home and things that are going on at school. They would be in direct contact with your parents. They may come talk to you in the classroom, but generally it's just kind of helping your parents out, be in contact with the school. They're kind of a middleman during this whole process. And then finally we have you. It depends on the meeting, not necessarily usually attend these meetings. It just really depends. But like I said earlier, that we would like to have you have an open communication with people. You could come talk to me, talk to your parents about some of the concerns that you have, but you are also definitely involved in this because it's based around you, and we want to make sure that you are comfortable and you are doing well in school. So there can be many different ways and reasons why you've been referred to get evaluated or go through this process. Usually your parents, teachers, or principals are going to be the likely candidates who request an evaluation to see if you can get some extra support and extra guidance in the classroom. And some of the reasons why you may be evaluated or you may be observed or things along those nature is you may need some speech therapy, you may need some physical therapy, occupational therapy, where you go and see somebody and work on some of those things. You may be struggling academically, and we just want to maybe have an aid or have more one-on-one time or have extra help in the classroom for you. There may be some behavioral concerns that are happening in the classroom that your teacher is concerned about, and they may need some extra help to help guide you and make sure that you're doing well. And finally, that you may be missing a lot of school, and we want to make sure that you're coming to school and learning. And usually, when that happens, the social worker will be the one who kind of goes out with your parents and sees what's going on at home and kind of puts some plans into place. So there's a variety of different reasons why you may be going through this transition process right now. It's not really a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. It just really depends on you and your family and what's going on, and we just want to make sure that you are doing the best that you can do, and we are providing those services for you. Now the next slide just talks about the different classifications or disabilities that may be written down in your plan. Your parents will be able to receive this plan, but this is just the classifications, like I said, that the psychologist may come in conclusion with after the testing assessment is all done and completed in the next couple of weeks. And don't be alarmed, don't feel like you're being singled out, anything like that. It's just written down so that we are able to provide the necessary resources for you, whether that may be a one-on-one aid, whether that may be you attending speech therapy twice a week or attending OT, occupational therapy, or PT, physical therapy during the week. You may need extra counseling, things like that. So just the next following slide is just for you to look over, and if it is written on your IP, you're more than welcome to come talk to me with questions regarding that specific classification, or if your parents have any questions, again, they are more than welcome and they are able to come and talk to me or anybody else on the special education committee. The next two slides are just a chart of kind of how the process kind of works. I know it can seem extremely overwhelming and extremely confusing, so I will explain it to the best of my ability. The first one is about the tiers and how we may do the intervention. So the bottom part, the tier one, is kind of where we always begin. We kind of start off small and kind of work our way up to tier two, then to tier three. Tier three being the most intensive tiers of trying to do strategies and interventions. So like I said, we start off at the first one at the bottom, and we kind of see what's going on within the classroom. The teacher will have to do some interventions or strategies, or a social worker may come into the house and do some strategies along that nature. And they keep data collection to make sure that they can come and show the committee of what they've done, what has worked, what hasn't worked, and then we come back and we try something new. And what should be pointed out is that that the data collection is there and they need to do it over a longer period of time. It's not like they're going to try a strategy within the classroom or try a strategy at home just within 3 days. They've got to make sure that they're keeping this data collection and observing and helping you out and see what works, see what doesn't work over a couple of weeks. And then we move up to the next tier, and if that doesn't work, then we keep going up to the next tier along that nature. And then the next slide after that is talking about the least restrictive environment. I kind of mentioned that at the beginning, and we always want to make sure that we're starting off at the least restrictive environment and we're keeping you in the least restrictive environment. We want to make sure that you're comfortable. We want to make sure that, again, that your education is being achieved and you're doing the best to your ability, and we're providing you those necessary resources. So starting off the least restrictive environment, it would be where you are now, would be like in the general education classroom with no supports, no nothing. And then you may have a one-on-one aid possibly, that's kind of going up, and then possibly, I'm not saying this will exactly happen to you, but then you may go to a special program. For example, we have a BOCES program where you may be in the classroom, a different classroom, but within the same school, with less kiddos, less other students in your classroom. For example, there's like 611s where there's 6 kids, 1 teacher, 1 aide, and like a counselor in the classroom. Same thing with an 811, 8 kids, 1 teacher, 1 counselor, 1 aide, or 1211, same thing, 12 students, 1 teacher, 1 aide, 1 counselor. So that would be pushing up. So from the least restrictive would be the regular gen ed classroom, then maybe a special program. Following that would be a non-public school that may be like Randolph Academy, where you would go to a school and you kind of stay there and complete your studies. And then finally at the bottom level would be like a home or residential, and you have to stay there and complete your coursework. So I hope that kind of makes sense. Again, like I said, it's kind of confusing, and I know it seems like a lot going on, and it can seem very overwhelming, but like I said, we want to make sure we're keeping the least restrictive environment, and we're starting off at the top level, the least restrictive, and then working our way up if need be. Like I said, it just depends on you and working our way through this process to get you where you need to be. Okay, so now I would like to talk to you about how the whole entire process works. In the following slide, you will see a chart that is going to describe exactly what I'm going to describe to you right now. So the first start is that your parents, the school administration, they'll make a request for an evaluation, which I talked about a little bit earlier. And your parents need to make sure that they give in writing that they are okay with having you being tested. Then the next step will be that an educated team, they'll review the results from the test and evaluation, and they will determine if you are eligible for services within the school district. If you're not eligible, then the process stops and that's done and over. But if you are eligible, then your parents and the school administration, the school psychologists, the teachers, the speech therapist if you need one, occupational or physical therapist, they'll begin working on your IEP. And in the IEP, it lists the services that you may need, and like I've reiterated before, is that it just depends on you and what you need at that time. It also lists the goals that you are going to achieve in those areas, academic, social, emotional, management, goals that you will receive in a year. or that you'll achieve in a year, and then it will also explain the modifications that you need unless otherwise stated. So if you need extra time in the classroom, if you need preferential seating in the classroom, things along those nature. If your parents disagree with what's in there, they'll discuss that in the meeting, and if they agree, then you will begin the services ASAP. And then the team meets once a year to discuss the progress of the goals that you have and the services. They can put in new plans, new goals after that year. And if the parents disagree with the changes, then you'll continue with those services until an agreement is made between your parents, you, and the CSC chair people. And they may also ask for additional testing if they would like to. And then your reevaluation will occur every 3 years once you have those services. So it's kind of a longer process. Like I said, it's not going to take 2 days and everything's going to be fine and dandy. They have to do the testing, they have to do the assessments. Your parents are going to be in direct contact in those meetings. They can also request other meetings if they would like to, besides just the 1 year meeting that we have to talk about your goals and your services. So I hope that makes sense. Like I said, the next slide is going to kind of outline exactly what I talked about if you are a visual learner. So what's included in your IEP, in your PLEP, which is your present level of your educational performance, is going to be things along the lines of where you are academically presently, where you are at social emotionally, where you are at physically, and where you are at management. It will also include related services in your IEP, whether that may be group or individual counseling, whether that may be OT, PT, speech. If need be, it will be a BIP or an FBA, which I talked about before. And these goals that they have in there, they have to be measurable and that they are measured every year. And like I said, they can add on more goals after that year if need be. And then it will also include the projected date of when you will be starting your new services and this transition. The next thing that I'd like to talk to you about is the ethics that go along with this transition. First of all, your parents need to have signed consents to be able to have you tested. They also need to make sure that they are approving of what is going on throughout this whole transition process. They also need to be informed about the annual reviews and things that are going on within the classroom. And as for you, some ethics that may occur that you might want to think about, we obviously think about the frustration that you're going through and the stress and the feeling of upset that you might have about maybe transitioning to a new classroom, maybe having that one-on-one aid, having somebody in the classroom with you. We want to make sure that you are as comfortable as possible and making sure that you still feel socially belong with the other students in your classroom and that you are making the adjustments well and properly. We want to make sure that you are not being singled out, and we will make sure that you don't feel this way. But definitely if there are things that come about where you're feeling upset or anxious or frustrated, you can definitely let us know, and we can help you figure it out so that you can feel comfortable throughout this whole entire transition. And now finally, I'd like to talk to you about the rights and responsibilities that you have as a student going through this transition process, and some that your parents may have. So you have confidentiality of your records, which means that the school, they cannot give out your records, but your parents are able to view these records anytime that they want. They just have to ask for it. That they also need to have signed consent form of you being tested whenever that may be. If there's another test that they would like to do, they need to make sure that they have a consent form from your parents. If your parents feel like things are not going the right way, or they feel like they're being violated, or you feel like you are being violated, you are able to file complaints with the U.S. Department of Education. And finally, they need a written release of information that states which records are going to be released, why those records are going to be released, and who it may be for. So an example that I have for this would be possibly if the social worker would like to be in contact and your parents are okay if you have a doctor, and maybe with medications or something like that, they are okay with having that social worker talk to that doctor. They need to have a written release of information that the social worker can talk to that doctor. They may give out things such as like the behavior that's going on in the school, um, or some of the academic problems that are going on in school, but they definitely need to make sure that they have written consent form and a written release of information. And you want to make sure that if you are feeling you are not being followed through with this, just let us know. But we are always making sure that we are following our rules. I hope that you've enjoyed this webinar and have found it insightful and helpful and has helped you kind of take a step back and think about the process, about what you might be going through. We are all here to help you out and make sure that you are doing well in school. If you have any other questions, please feel free to come to my office and talk to me. There's some resources that I've attached and a tip sheet to help you out if need be. And like I said, if you have any questions, just let me know. Thanks.